Yes, you boo. This is a show about what it means to know, to love, and to lead yourself. And I hope that some of what I have to share here feels relatable, feels encouraging, feels valuable to you. Here I will be sharing stories and empowering perspectives and humbling truths and visionary ideas and hopefully supportive tools for you to explore this topic of you and how that relates to your purpose in the world, how that relates to the collective experience that we are all creating with each other. I want to thank all of you for listening to the trailer, listening to episode 1, which came out last Thursday. And that was on August 8th, 2024. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about why I chose that date and why it was so meaningful for me to put it out on that day. And for some of you who don't know me yet, my name is Stephanie Sauvé-Bogue, and I am the owner of Moonwild Studio. I have a multi-passionate business that I haven't really introduced you to yet. So without diving too much into that yet, I am showing up to the calling that keeps calling me and has been for many years. And so much of what I do with my clients is tied to the life experience I've personally had and my own struggle to know myself, to love myself. Oh my gosh, what a big struggle. I talk about that a little bit in the last episode. And to lead myself. I have realized that when we learn to lead ourselves in life and in business, in love, in health, in wealth, in every area of life, when we learn that it's actually up to us in a real way, and we rise to the occasion of that, and we practice that imperfectly but passionately again and again, every day, as best as we can, everything shifts in a better direction. And one thing that's really important to me in my work is truth. I'm not here to sugarcoat things. I'm not here to wear a mask or convince people to do things that aren't right for them. I believe that truth is the ultimate healer. And when people are allowed to be authentic, a lot of things heal from that permission. And so that is really the goal. And it's much harder than people think because there's so much social conditioning that we have that is putting layers and layers and layers on top of who we really are. I'm really interested in exploring what rules can be broken, not for the sake of rebellion, but for the sake of freedom. One of the ways that I lead is I'm happy to go first and see what would happen if I were to do it differently. And so on this show, we're going to be talking about all different kinds of modalities for which you can know yourself better. One of them, human design. So I'm a manifestor in human design. If you're not familiar with what that is yet, that's okay. If I've sparked your curiosity, you can look up what human design is on Google search and you'll find so much information readily available to you. But there are 5 authority types in human design, and I am a manifestor. My specific type, about 8% of the population has. When you look at my human design chart, you can see that I am here to lead and to speak and to use my voice to pitch in to the collective effort to help us evolve. And so it makes sense then that I have this unexplainable calling to speak. And here I am on this podcast. So we're going to explore this topic of what this means for you, looking at these different ways to know yourself and then to act on that. My goal is that you can receive this invitation to contemplate on where you are and where you want to go, and ways that you can begin to know yourself, love yourself, and lead yourself better. Huge part of the work is that's the embodiment piece. It is not just what you know. We can memorize and then we can teach. That is a much different thing than living it and sharing it from an embodied place. And so that is my intention. And in the context, of course, of no one's ever done, this is a practice, and it's called a practice for a reason. So let this show be an ongoing practice of all of this. And so I want to invite you into this beautiful sanctuary I've created of a place to keep it real, to be inspired, to make art with our life. And I really do believe that things are not as compartmentalized as humans want them to be for our convenience. Things are deeply, deeply connected, and there is so much left to be discovered. There is so much that we don't know yet. And I am not someone who is naive or doesn't have critical thinking. However, there are things that I'm curious about and believe in without having to have hard evidence. And the reason is because think about love. Love is one of the biggest driving forces that we have as humans. It's one of the things we care about the most, that gives us intrinsic motivation to do anything in life. It's the thing people say matters most before they die. It is the thing that motivates us to do most of what we do, is to experience love. And yet, how do you prove that love exists? How do you measure it? How do you know how much of it you have? How do you know how much of it you gave? How do you know for sure that it's even a thing that's real? Can we prove it with science that it's real? There are all kinds of ways to measure what love is and what love does. And you can look at brain chemistry, you can look at endorphins, you can look at heart rate vitals, you can look at all kinds of things, all the way down to measuring someone's heart field and how far out it goes beyond their body. That's a real thing we can measure. And love is also one of those things that's very intangible. And yet, most of us believe it exists. And so, with that context, there are other things that also we can't really measure exactly. We can't really understand exactly. And there are people listening right now for sure who believe and have faith in all kinds of things that they don't need proof about. They just believe it, and you choose to believe it. And you love that you believe it, and it makes your life better that you believe it. And so there's also some of you who are might say things like, I believe in science. I don't believe in anything spiritual. And what I'm here to say is all of you are welcome here, and all of you are going to find that there is a seat for you at this table. So, a little bit of my background when it comes to beliefs is, and by the way, our beliefs is one of the biggest ways that we change our life. Our beliefs about ourselves, our beliefs about the world, our beliefs about what's possible. And you're going to hear me talk about this a lot on this show, because what a lot of people don't even realize is that you hold a lot of beliefs that hold you back. And once you do start realizing this, and for many of you, you've been working on this for years, and this isn't going to come a surprise to you, and you're going to know how powerful it is to work on it. But if this is something that you haven't really worked on yet in your life, what you will hopefully come to understand and to see and to experience for yourself is that when you begin to become really aware of what beliefs you walk around with, you will also begin to understand why you're not exactly where you want to be yet. And our beliefs carry a lot of power. They will stop us before we even start, or they will carry us through an outcome we couldn't even imagine doing until we did it. But that willingness to believe in what didn't exist yet, that will take us everywhere. And so, without being delulu, there's a lot of power in trust, in faith, in belief. And I want to talk about that a tiny bit today. I was raised without any religion, and my family was very, we were rooted in having core values about what it means to be a good human. And it wasn't tied to religion at all. And so we were really taught to think critically and not really taught about anything spiritual, really. And it was great. It was great to be encouraged to think for ourselves and to question everything, and to have a strong moral compass without needing, say, a punishment or a reward. Just this is, this intrinsic desire to be good was instilled in me. And so, because I was raised without religion, I kind of see it as I was provided this blank slate to decide for myself. And I began to kind of explore. So, all I'm going to say is that fast forward to today, at the age of 40, where I've had a ton of time to lead myself through my own curiosities and my own questions and my own seeking in the deeper meaning behind life. What are we doing here? I came upon a lot of spiritual teachings, also just my own awareness of energy, my own awareness of that there is something bigger. There is something bigger than humans. We are not the most intelligent thing in the universe. There's something else. And so my beliefs right now are very, very open and inclusive. So this is a very safe space for anyone, regardless of your religious or not religious beliefs, because what I am bringing to the table is an open heart and an open mind and curious questions. Also, my own knowing for what I know to be true, what I choose to believe, and what I'm still inviting to find answers to. And what I ask you to bring to the table is your own beliefs. And that's perfectly acceptable and beautiful. And I think it serves all of us to stay open. I'm a truth seeker. And so if I'm presented new information, I might challenge my old belief because I don't think I know it all. I believe there is so much to be uncovered still for all of us, actually, for humanity in general. And anywhere where we're saying this is absolute and that is it, we are closing ourselves off to discovery and to greater wisdom, to greater knowledge, to evolution, to higher intelligence. So I believe it serves us to stay open. It doesn't mean we can't have conviction over what we currently believe. But what I hope for us is that we do stay open enough that when new information is available, we are able to integrate it into our current belief system so that we can always be evolving to more intelligence and more wisdom, more awareness. And so, with all of that said, I want to talk a little bit about why it felt meaningful to me to put the podcast out into the world on August 8th, 2024. Another modality for which to begin to know yourself or to deepen your knowledge of yourself is numerology. And discovering what your life path number is and discovering how numerology can act as a little bit of a guide for you. My life path number is number 8. And I love the number 8 for so many reasons because if you look at the shape of an 8, it is a continuous line that is the same as the infinity sign. And so it represents infinity, limitlessness, abundance, balance. And so it is a number that really resonates in the energy of harmony, balance, and abundance. If you think of what Mother Nature does without human intervention, there is this incredible, harmonious, balanced ebb and flow where everything has what it needs and it replenishes itself. It's like a closed system. That is what an 8 feels like. And so this energy of 8 is very abundant this year on August 8th. It was on August 8th because when you add up 2024, that adds up to 8. And so this year it was 888. And so that's really this energy of 8 really amplified. And if you're interested in exploring more about numerology and your life path number, I'll encourage you can find all this information on. And for now, I'm just going to sprinkle in these little things and you can explore more of what sounds intriguing to you. I'll invite you to trust your own intuitive nudges of what things feel like, ooh, I should follow that. That is a big part of how we get to know ourselves better, is letting our curiosities guide us. And I feel it's important sometimes to also be aware that you want to be curious with a healthy level of discernment. You can't trust everything you read or see on the internet. And I hope that you all know that by now, but I just feel like it's important to say that. And so I want to invite a healthy level of discernment and critical thinking as you explore any of these topics. What we get to do is we can let it be fun. We can let it be meaningful as we want it to be. But you don't want to let it be more powerful than you. You don't want to let anything you come across, any discipline of study or belief system or other person be more powerful than you. Trust yourself. That is really the most important when it comes to exploring anything to do with the more esoteric arts or things that are a little more intangible. you want to be discerning and use your own intelligence to decide, does this make sense? Do I want to believe this? Is this helpful? Is this supportive? So I'm just putting that out there. So much of this is just harmless and beautiful, but we can get into where people can be disempowered sometimes by this information too. So I want to invite you. I'm going to just take this time actually while I'm thinking about it to send me questions that you have. I'm going to be kind of jumping from topic to topic on these episodes. And so there are certain things I'm going to touch on, but not dive into yet. So what I want to put out there to all of you is, if things come up where you're like, I want to know more about that. What about this? What about this? Please send me your questions. And I want to invite you as well to send me requests for things you want me to do episodes on. It doesn't mean I can guarantee it, right? But I'd love to hear from you. What would be supportive to you? So I'm putting that invitation out there. You can email me at moonwildmuse@gmail.com. You can also DM me on Instagram at moon.wild.studio. And you can comment on the YouTube video if you're watching the YouTube video and ask your questions and make your episode theme requests. And I'll put all that info in the show notes for you. So, August 8th, 2024 is the Lionsgate portal. So this is the middle of it. It actually is a span of time that lasts longer than that. But August 8th is right in the middle. And actually today, on August 12th, we're right at the sort of end of the most potent time of the portal. And so I wanted to use today's episode to talk a bit about why this date was significant to me, what we do with this energy, and I'm going to guide you through a practice you can use in your life. So, there's a lot of information you can find out there about Lionsgate portal and why it's significant. But it is when the sun is in alignment with Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. And so Sirius is much, much brighter than the sun. It's just further away. And so these two very powerful sources of light come into perfect alignment. And it is believed that this creates a portal that is most amplified on the 8th for manifestation, for abundance, for bringing something to light, bringing something to life. And so it's not that you can't choose any day of the year to do this for yourself. We're always manifesting. And I'm going to dive into what manifesting is in a second. And for those of you who are already maybe experts on it, there is so much for you as well. So I really felt inspired to align with this, to be held, to be supported by the energy of this portal. It's not that we can't bring our dreams to life at any time of the year. I would never encourage someone, wait for the Lions portal, or wait for the full moon, or wait for the new moon, or wait for this or that. No, Move when the inspiration strikes, honey. You do not need to wait for the stars to align. But why this is fun is because if you can imagine that before we even had the internet or TVs or CDs or records or entertainment that was given to us through electronic means, before any of that, we had nature and we had each other and we had our own imagination. And the stars and the sky would fascinate people, and people knew all kinds of things about nature and the universe and the stars, and they paid attention. And so for a long time, people have believed in the power of the alignment of the planets and the stars. And you can think about it like this is the energetic weather. It's not going to completely decide what's happening in your life, just like the weather doesn't. But it is something to pay attention to if you want to be more engaged with the subtle energies that are going on, whether you can see them or not. And so, just as we know that the moon affects the way the ocean moves, there is more than just the moon to the sky. And so, as people study and know about astrology and know about how the energy shifts and changes as the planets and stars do, we can choose to engage with it or not. But either way, it's happening. So I choose to engage with it because I think that it's fun, and I think that there is a long-standing wisdom in being connected to Mother Earth and the universe. And it is something that is very powerful and beautiful and meaningful if you let it be. And so Lionsgate Portal is this amplified time to set an intention or to make a move or to do something or to bring something into light. And the other cool thing about this is that because it's such a well-known special time for manifesting around the world, there are thousands of people doing this all at once. So you have people all around the world saying, here's my dreams. I'm going to put them into the collective energy and hope they manifest. And then because I believe that it's possible, I'm going to take action towards it. And then it actually has a chance of becoming real. And then so many people are doing that at one time. The actual collective consciousness and frequency is being elevated. And when we all believe in ourselves a bit more, we all believe in each other a bit more, a lot of things become a lot more possible. And so this is where we start to bridge between the tangible, the scientific, the psychological, and the intangible and the esoteric, and how it all actually is connected and relevant and real. And so you get to believe at your own level. But here's what I'll say about that. You don't have to be fully invested in believing in these things and that they matter to begin to play and just see what happens, right? I was a very, I would question everything and I had to have evidence. But I had this very strong pull towards astrology and wanting to understand that more. And the more I dove into it, the more I realized, okay, there's a lot of legitimacy to this. Interesting. And then I dove into human design and realized the same thing. And the more that I am practicing, actively manifesting on a daily basis, the more I realize how real it is. So, we are going to dive into the topic of manifesting. I have one more thing I wanted to share about the significance of launching the podcast on 888 in the peak moment of Lionsgate, the Lionsgate portal. And I already told you that my life path number is 8. I just love this number. It holds a lot of significance for me. And also, I was born at Lionsgate Hospital in North Vancouver, BC. And I actually hadn't even thought about that until the day that I launched my podcast on that day. And I thought about it and was like, oh yeah, I was born at Lionsgate Hospital. How interesting. And there are all of these neat little synchronicities that I'm noticing when I think about why was I so called to launch it on this day? And when it came down to actually doing it, I came up against so many barriers on that day. And also fell into flow with so many wins, really. But the truth of it all is I left many things to do on that day. That's the truth of it. And actually, the way that it worked out anyway was incredible. But I got to a point in the day where it was very late, and it would have been very practical and reasonable of me to say, you know what? Who cares? Let's launch it tomorrow. But it just felt so important to me to do it on the 8th, and so I made it happen. And so you'll see that there's things about my trailer that are not perfect, but that is the one that actually made it onto the published Spotify and YouTube sites on the 8th, so I'm keeping it. And episode 1 has 0 edits, you guys. I just spoke from my heart. I added the music and I posted it without even listening to it first. Oh my gosh, the amount of trust I had to have in myself and in all of you. But I am practicing leading by example. And this is very true to my manifestor human design type. I'm aligned 1 and 3. And 1 is really about acquiring and studying the knowledge. And I'm always, always, always studying. I'm always enrolled in a course. I'm always taking classes. And 3 is all about experiencing it for myself. And the manifestor aspect of it with a defined throat center and will center is all about then sharing my lived experience in order to benefit others, in order for you to learn through me. Not everyone has to experience something firsthand to learn. And my hope is that you're able to feel supported through my willingness to show up and experience it and put it out there in a vulnerable sense, imperfectly, because that is what I have to offer. And so I also believe that there would be so much more knowledge, intelligence, magic solutions available to us in the world if we all were supportive to each other in doing that. Because so much of the greatness you create happens in the process of creating in unexpected ways. But you can't plan for so much of that magic that happens. You have to move through the motions of showing up and then it happens. And so I hope to instill some courage in each of you to do the thing that your heart is calling. And when we think of Lionsgate portal, lions, right? The ultimate symbol of courage, of loyalty, of strength, of power. So I hope you will be loyal to yourself and your dreams and show up with courage and power without having to force or convince. A lion, a lioness does not need to convince people of how powerful she is. it is felt, it is known, it is revered. And so let that be you. Let that be you, boo. I felt called to let the Lionsgate portal energy support me and us in the opening of this show. And my hope is that that portal, that light of possibility, will continue to resonate through this show for the rest of time. And so, whether we believe in any of that or not, having a date that you're holding yourself accountable to allows that thing to happen. And if the date is meaningful to you, then you will go above and beyond what is reasonable and rational to make it happen. And that is incredibly valuable too. And that is what I did because that date had meaning. And so, with all of that said, I want to talk about manifesting. What do people do with Lionsgate Portal? It's all about manifesting. And this word is so misunderstood by so many. I will say it is very understood by a lot of people, more probably now than ever before, maybe. I don't know, but it seems like a lot of people have been studying what it means to manifest, and that's a good thing. Because what I hope is that we can take some of the illusion and the assumption out of that word, because manifesting is a very powerful practice that completely changes our lives. And so I want to dive into what it's not, what it is, and I want to guide you through a bit of a practice that you can do. So I had a client share with me that she wasn't really sure if she wanted to attend a class on manifesting. And she shared with me her hesitation with it. And it made me realize that even though I'm completely immersed in the practice, and so I don't question if it's real, I believe in it completely. And because I've seen what it's created for me, that sometimes I can sort of forget that for a lot of people, that word sounds kind of cringe and kind of weirdo land, you know? So I want to talk a little bit about why that is. And part of it is because when deep, meaningful practices that have been used for decades and centuries all around the world by wise philosophers and leaders and people who've changed the world, when those make it into the hands of the mainstream population and the internet, they get a little watered down. And so then these terms like manifestation can become very misunderstood and misused. And then people don't want to trust it. And then people don't want to trust it because then they see someone on YouTube saying, okay, guys, all you have to do is put your dream home, a picture of it, cut it out of a magazine, and put it on your vision board, and then put that luxury boat that you want on your vision board, and then put pictures of money and the man or the woman or the person or the unicorn that you want. And you put it on there and you hang it in your bedroom and you look at it every day. And then you just cultivate the feeling that you're going to have when you have it. And then you just hold that vibration all day, and then you'll become a magnet. And those things will just appear into your life like magic. And then you see people practicing this and paying people a lot of money to teach them about this. And then going, what the F? My dream life didn't show up on my doorstep. You're a snake oil salesman. Oh my gosh. This is all unethical and not real. And this is psychological abuse. And oh my goodness. So there is a lot of dark energy that can surround these sacred practices, which are also very practical, by the way. So I want to speak to that a little. Manifestation is not magic. And it is not some woo-woo thing that certain people have access to and certain other people don't. It is not making the unreal real by way of your vision board. It is not it's not some cheap magic trick. And so and here's the thing, okay? It's been cheapened. People have taken something powerful that is real and that works and cheapened it. Cheapened it with saying it's about a Gucci bag or about an $8 million home or about a luxury whatever. And I don't have a problem with whatever it is you want. For me, the things I want, the things I deeply desire, they have a lot of meaning to me. And I don't tend to desperately desire certain things just for the sake of luxury. However, I'm not against luxury. Luxury is full of intentionality, and I love that. It's full of care, and that's a topic for another day. Whatever it is you want, I support you, as long as it doesn't create harm or negligence of other people or the planet. So we're all doing our best with that. No one's perfect. We have a long way to go when it comes to all that. So letting go of all that for today's episode and just saying, whatever it is that you're manifesting, I hope you get it. Good for you. You know, like you have my full support. But let's not cheapen it with things that, why do you want it? Why does it matter to you, you know? And this practice is actually very powerful and life-changing if we let it be. And so let's talk a little bit about what it is. I personally have been practicing manifestation on a daily basis for many, many, many years, and it has absolutely changed my life. And so my resting place with this is debt. You're never going to get a cheap version of this from me. And so if you're new to this, it is still my goal that you get to be a part of this conversation too. And it is for everyone. It is for everyone if you want it to be. So why does it matter? Why do we care to know about what manifesting is? Can't we just hang out and be awesome and show up and do what we need to do and get things done? And yeah, of course you can. You can live your life however you want, and maybe you feel totally satisfied with what you have. And if that's you, amazing. Manifesting isn't necessarily a tool we use to fix our life. Our life doesn't have to need fixing in order to tap into the power of this way of being, way of living. We are always manifesting, whether we mean to or not. This is a very important thing to know. I heard someone say, you know, I'm really not in a place to be manifesting right now. So I'd rather not work on that right now because my energy is off and I don't want to attract bad things into my life by practicing manifesting right now. And so what I would say in that situation is that you actually really do want to be practicing manifesting if that is what's going on. Because unfortunately, you're going to manifest anyway. You're going to manifest with your energy, with your thoughts, with your actions, with your existence, whether you mean to or not. And so it would really serve us always to choose to bring some intention to what we are doing. That is what manifesting is. There is a version of life where we are a passenger, where we mostly just float along, letting our subconscious lead us. We let everything else decide because we're unwilling to. And we go with the flow. We say, maybe we respond to invitations that we get, but we never make them. Maybe we just respond to the urges that we have. Oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I feel like eating this. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, this person called. I'll call them back. Oh, I got this job offer. I'll say yes. Oh, I'm not getting fired, so I won't leave. There's a way of being that we let everything else decide how our life goes. And we let other people decide how we feel about anything. So this could be like other people say something about you and you believe it. Other people say something to you, you let it affect the way your day goes. You are unwilling to decide how your life is going to be, so everything else decides for you. That is a way of not manifesting with intention. So what you're going to accidentally manifest when you're living like that is all kinds of disempowering things because you are being disempowered. You're letting yourself be led by everyone and everything else. And so in a lot of ways, you're giving your power of choice away. Going with the flow isn't a bad thing. There are times to go with the flow. There are times to listen to others and to be the passenger, for sure. But even that is an intentional assessment to make and to say, oh, right now I'm leaning back. Right now I'm listening. Right now I'm in the passenger seat. Right now I'm letting someone else pick. That's still an intentional choice. This might feel like a painfully obvious concept to people who already lead very intentional lives. But for a lot of people, they've never stopped to think about if they're being intentional or not. They just are. They just do. They just have their routines, their patterns. They don't question it. They just live. Now, for people who would say, I'm highly intentional, I've been practicing manifesting for years, I think you would probably agree with me when I say this work is never done. And so that's why it's always relevant to consider, because you wouldn't just brush your teeth once and say, oh, they're clean. We all know, in a visceral sense, in a very real sense, that has to be done twice a day, minimum, for our mouths to stay clean and healthy. And yet, a lot of people overlook that we need to do this for our mind and for our energy and for our spirit as well. We need to have energetic hygiene. And how do we do this? Well, we get intentional all through the day. We check in with our self-awareness. What is our energy like? How do we feel? What are our thoughts? What is the quality of my thoughts today? My feelings, my energy? What do I want? Who do I want to show up as today? The practice of manifesting is the practice of showing up with intention. Instead of letting everyone and everything else decide how your day, how your life is going to go, you're saying, actually, I'm going to decide. And it is a way of discerning what is in your control and what is not. And it is a practice of surrendering what's not in your control and inviting trust there. And taking full responsibility for what is in your control and then taking action on that. And so, if you're someone who's already been practicing manifesting a lot, then you know that this involves so many different parts of self. It involves our thoughts, our feelings, our energy, our frequency. It involves visioning the future and taking action. I talked about vision boards, right? Because that's often what we think about when we think of manifestation in the more immediate sense, I guess. Now, vision boards are not wrong or bad. And in sort of like making fun of what people might talk about manifestation as in a way that isn't the full picture, doesn't invalidate the power of a vision board. And you also don't have to have one to be powerfully manifesting. But here's why it actually works. For the people that will say, actually, they really do work, it's not because it's just unexplainable magic. Now, of course, when you think about everything is energy, when you break everything down that exists to its most finite existence, you have energy, you have vibrating light. And so when you're thinking on an energetic sense, this aspect you hear people talking about with manifestation, talking about frequency, and when you are vibrating in this specific resonance, you will attract other things vibrating in that resonance. There is actually science behind that. That is legit. So sometimes what feels like magic is actually energy doing what energy does in such a microscopic level that we are not aware that it's happening, but it is happening. And so there is an element that might feel like magic when you begin to practice manifesting in a serious way. But what is important to note is that it's not just that. We are not just cultivating the feeling, although that's an important part of it. We are working with all parts of self to say, I want this thing. And because I believe it's possible, I live in alignment with that truth. Therefore, it begins to become possible. And so when I say I want that thing, I want to invite us to think about that we don't just manifest material things. We manifest relationships, feelings, experiences, outcomes, ways of being. We manifest the next version of ourselves. That's where it can get really powerful and deep beyond just, I want a dream house, which maybe you want a dream house and go ahead and manifest that. I believe in you. But sometimes you're manifesting things like sobriety or finding the person you're going to marry. And all of it is relevant and beautiful. So when we are actively saying, I am going to manifest, what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to take a moment of intentionality to be with, first of all, what is. noticing what is happening right now in my life. Can I become aware? So you have a heightened awareness of what is going on for you inside and outside. So your life circumstance, but also how you feel about it, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your relationships. Checking in with, am I satisfied? What is it that I'm so grateful for? And what is it that I want? And so it is looking at increasing your awareness. And you're going to look at your thoughts. What thoughts do you have around this? Like, what is it that you want in your life that you don't have yet? And how does it, what comes up for you when you imagine that maybe those things could be possible? You're going to realize all the limiting beliefs you have that get in your way and that show up with subconscious behavior to prevent you from having it. So you're going to notice then the thoughts evoke feelings. The feelings create a frequency that resonates out into the world, making you a magnet for more of things of that frequency. When you feel like, gosh, I just have bad luck, well, maybe you're stuck in a bit of a loop with self-defeating thoughts creating disempowering outcomes. I know that this was true for me. And in the same light that we can get stuck in that, we can create momentum in a very high vibrational way of existing, where our thoughts support our feelings, support our vibrations, support our actions, support our outcomes. So that is the next thing, is that we're putting out a vibrational frequency, and also then we are taking an action or not taking an action. And then within that action, we are doing it with a certain energy, emotion, thought process. So if we are just doing things randomly without this framework of intention, we're going to get a lot of mixed results in our life, and we're probably going to really overextend ourselves going after something without heightened clarity for what we want, why it matters, and how we're going to get there. So when you think of like the thought that we're having, it's like, well, what do I want? Why do I want it? That's tapping into your emotion. Why does it matter to you? And then thinking of taking inspired action, it's, well, what is the way there? If you have a dream and you begin to imagine yourself doing that thing, living in that truth, you are cultivating a belief that it's possible, potentially, and that is going to change the way that you show up. If you have a thought that's like, I would love to do this, but then right away you're like, nah, that's not possible for me. How do you think you're going to show up in your life if you don't believe that that thing is even possible for you? Now, this is why people can say that the practice of manifesting is a little woo-woo. It's spiritual practice. And it can be as much as feels real for you. But what manifesting also is a very practical tool to use in life that is used by high-performing people like athletes. Athletes practice visualizing themselves doing the thing before they can physically do it. They put themselves in the situation where they are making the slam dunk and imagining what it's going to feel like to jump that high, imagining what it's going to feel like to have their hand hit the edge of the basket, what it's going to feel like afterwards when everyone is cheering, what it's going to feel like. And they're seeping themselves in the feeling of having already done it. This is a practice that, in a physical, practical sense, it helps your psychology get on board. It helps your subconscious get on board with this belief. It helps your nervous system begin to regulate and expand to the capacity of this being possible. It helps you create a future memory of a thing that hasn't happened yet, so that every part of you that is beneath your conscious choice to want that can begin to get on board with that belief, so that you don't get subconsciously blocked from doing it. So much of what we can't do is because our nervous system hasn't expanded the capacity to consider it safe yet. So much of what we can't do is because of a subconscious limiting belief. So much of what we can't do is because we haven't even visualized ourselves doing it yet. And so there is no way for our brain to comprehend it. And so we can't figure out the steps to get there yet. So it's not that we have to really see the end result of where we're going either. We just have to have a sense of what we want in terms of, what is the feeling I want to have? Maybe you know an outcome, a milestone that you want. Maybe all you know right now is, I like this feeling. Okay, great. We can work with that. We can work with almost any information about what it is that you know that you want that you don't have yet. The difference between manifesting and just doing, for example, is having such deep connected intention behind all parts of yourself compared to just doing the thing. Taking action will create all kinds of amazing results for you in your life. But the more intention you can have, the more your outcomes are going to reflect actual fulfilling success. We can work and work and work. We can take action endlessly. We might still not be satisfied or have the outcomes that we want. So much of the time, that is because we aren't supporting that action and that energy behind everything with our intention and our passion and our vision and our belief that our wildest dreams are possible. This is where it gets to be actually really fun if you let it, and a lot more powerful. What if you could work half as much and have twice as powerful outcomes? This is absolutely possible, and all kinds of people are showing us that. Why? Because things don't necessarily take more work, they take more intention, more vision, more strategy, more energetic alignment. And so some of this is very practical and very tangible, and some of it is not. Just like everything in our lives, just like a relationship is. Being in love is full of practical action steps and intangible, hard to describe feelings and energetic alignments and dissonance sometimes, right? We feel it. We feel it when things are off and we can't quite put our finger on it. It's the same with everything that we're in relationship with in the world and in the universe. So a part of this is getting on board with the idea that we are in fact in relationship with all of the energy that exists in the universe. Whether we choose to engage with it or not, it is still happening. We are still in relationship with it, whether we own it or choose to believe that it's insignificant. And so this gets really fun when we can release the need to be all powerful and get the exact outcomes that we think we want. Because a huge part of this then is putting all this effort and intention forward, right? and then surrendering to the actual outcome. Because there's so much that we can't control, and we have to accept that. And I mean, you don't have to do anything, but it's going to make your life feel a lot better if you can practice some acceptance and surrender to the things that you can't control. Because when we must have evidence from the universe that this is working, we are still letting our logical ego lead. And that doesn't allow for the balance that's required with allowing for the synchronicities, the flow, and the truths of the universe, and allowing for the softer yet even more powerful parts of self to lead in the feminine energy, which is our heart, our soul, our spirit, right? There is this very powerful, harmonious thing that happens when we know when to lean in and we know when to lean back. And practicing manifestation actively will help you with this discernment. So there's many ways to approach manifestation, and one of the offerings that I love to lead and hold space and guide people through is an intention setting ceremony where we do like a very beautiful, rich ceremony with all kinds of beautiful things. And I will guide people through a practice of grounding in gratitude, of releasing what no longer serves, of guiding people through a future casting visualization where they can really get with the truth of what it is they really want, that is actually in alignment with what is true, not what other people say you should want, not what the expectations of you are, but actually the truth of what you want. And then the practice of intention setting in a powerful, effective way. And then you would have those intention cards to display, to remind yourself. And going back to this thing I opened but didn't finish explaining is why vision boards work. They work because you took the time to be with what you want. You said, I want this. You decided to let yourself want it to the point where you made a tangible thing that other people could maybe see. You owned that. A part of you has to believe that it's possible, or you wouldn't waste time doing it. And then if you place it somewhere that you can see every day, what is that doing for you? It's acting as a guiding light, as an everyday reminder. This is what I said I wanted. How likely are you to actually keep moving towards something if you're reminded every single day that it matters to you? And if seeing that board in the exact way you made it evokes a feeling for you, oh yeah, what if that's possible? I'm excited. That is why it works. You know why else it works? Other people see it, and then they help you with the thing you said you wanted. There are very practical reasons why these things work. But if we don't do it, here's why we don't end up getting what we want. Because we don't even know what we want. We're not owning it. We're not believing it's possible. And we're not telling anyone else, so they can't help us either. So it's not magic. It's very practical. And it makes a lot of sense once you actually start to understand what this actually is. And people might say, well, why wouldn't you just call that goal setting? Isn't that just goal setting? Sure. You can call it goal setting if you want. But there is one key difference, in my opinion. Goal setting is very narrow-minded in terms of, it's not wrong, by the way. I love goal setting. It's powerful. But goal setting can imply that it's only up to us. And manifesting implies that we are part of an entire web of happenings and we play one role. And that is more like what is happening. So that's why I prefer to use that term when it comes to creating a future that we look forward to walking towards. And so I want to leave you with a few questions to journal on today. Right now, we're still in potent energy, in the Lionsgate portal energy to be manifesting in. And I want to remind you that there's never a bad time to do this work. It's just that in certain moments, astrologically speaking, the energy is supporting us in an even bigger way than normally it would be. And then people who really study astrology and pay attention to it will also tell you there are times when maybe it's not best to be actively manifesting, opening up your energy field to receive things, because maybe you're not going to like what you receive. And so there's definitely conversations to be had about that, right? That's bringing even more intention into your practice. I personally believe that there's never a day when we aren't going to benefit from checking in with, where am I going today? Who do I want to be today? And that is more a mindfulness practice that doesn't necessarily have to be considered manifesting. It's more just embodiment work, mindfulness work. And so do with this what you will and what feels right to you. I invite you to study from people that you trust about these topics if you're interested in it. And I'm going to keep talking about these things here as well. I'm really going to be going back and forth between more intangible, esoteric things and more things based in psychology or biology, and all kinds of disciplines. I really believe everything is connected, and I don't think that we can say it's all this or it's all that. It's actually, everything is so deeply connected, and the real world that came before us, that includes us, is not in the shape of little boxes with little labels on top. It is organic, it is deeply intertwined, and so are each of us and every part of us as an individual. So that's the way I really look at things. And I still think it's really fun to be able to break things down into parts that are easier to comprehend and talk about. So journaling really helps with this. I'll invite you to answer these questions for yourself. And if you want to set up a little ceremony for yourself, or a ritual, or even just something as, okay, why would you do that if you're someone who doesn't normally do that? Because if something can feel special, it can hold more power for us. If you're someone who is already has like a giant altar at your house, and you are like, girl, this is my whole life, don't worry about it, go ahead and create a beautiful ceremony for yourself. You do you, boo, right? That's my hope for all of you. So whether you have the time and the energy and the vision to create a beautiful ceremony for yourself, go ahead and do that. I will like to hear some ideas that I do for myself. I'll do something as simple and as quick as just clearing the energy first, and then lighting a candle. Okay, this is a ritual moment. Maybe I'll go sit out in nature. Maybe I won't even have any of my own things, right? I'll rely on nature to create the magical scene for me. Or I'll go sit out in my fire pit in my backyard and I will take a moment to connect to everything that I'm grateful for in this moment. So that's the first question. What am I grateful for? So when you do a gratitude practice, I want to invite you to see if you can connect to your heart energy and not just answer from your mind, but maybe place your hand on your heart. Maybe take a few deep breaths. Maybe even close your eyes. And see if you can let yourself feel the truth of that gratitude. A person that you love, something about yourself that you're grateful for, something about your life. Maybe you're like me and you can just easily name off 50 things. Maybe it doesn't come as easily to you. Maybe you're going through a hard time. That's okay. That is okay. Can you think of at least 3 things and acknowledge them and write them down? Or if you're not writing things down right now, that's okay. Take a moment, whatever you're doing, if it's safe to do so. You don't have to close your eyes. But take a moment to just check in with what am I grateful for right now? This is what I call grounded in gratitude. This is our foundation of enoughness from which to build on. I never, ever, ever manifest without establishing a foundation. You want to think about where you are right now. How am I doing? What am I grateful for? What do I already have? Do I feel safe? Do I feel protected? Do I feel able to ask for more? Because we don't want to just ask for more without actually feeling solid in where we are. And what I mean is, not everything in your life has to be going great, but connect to something that you can acknowledge is enough. Connect to something that you can acknowledge feels safe, feels enough, you feel grateful for. It's so important. Then I want to invite you to connect to what is in the way of you having what you want. What is something that you would like to put down? Is there a pattern you've been doing that isn't serving you? Is there a relationship that continues to not be aligned, to not be right? Oh my gosh, that sunlight is, for those of you watching the video right now, the sun is just beaming in the window and you can see it's okay. I'm going to go with it. But I want to invite you to connect to what isn't working. And as you do this, my loves, let's do our best to practice doing this without judgment. Can you be the loving observer of yourself in your life and have curiosity and look really at yourself in your life through the lens of a scientist or an investigator and just say, okay, or maybe, someone's solving a design problem. Let me look at this. Let me look at myself. Let me look at my life. Now, you're going to hear me talking about these things in a really lighthearted way because this is my life's work. For some people I know, this can be very vulnerable, and that's okay. Whatever this brings up for you, whether you're like, oh, I love this. I love looking at the truth of what isn't working for me. I'm comfortable with that. Or if you're like, oh, I've never really done that, I feel really vulnerable right now, that's okay. This gets to become very empowering. When you are ready to really look at yourself and say, look, everybody has stuff that is great about them, and everybody has stuff that could use some growth, some healing, some evolution. It's okay. It's all good. We are all a work in progress. And so, from that lighthearted perspective, and if this brings up emotion for you or discomfort, I want to invite you to consider that that's okay. That is okay. What I hope for all of us is that we have permission to just be real. It's okay to be sad, uncomfortable, afraid. It's actually very healthy to be able to experience all of the emotions that are available to us as humans. That is part of our emotional intelligence. And so I really hope we can move away from the stigma of being able to feel and instead see it for what it is, as a superpower. And if you're someone who can't really feel and you feel a bit disconnected from that right now, that's also okay and normal. So, whatever your experience is, I want you to consider that that might be enough and that might be okay for today. Let this be a practice. So, when you ask yourself, what's in the way for me of having everything I want? What comes up? Trust it. Whatever shows up right away is the thing that's alive for you to work on. You can write down as many things as you want. And I invite you to sit with how it feels. Whatever those things are: procrastination, avoidance, negative self talk, toxic relationships. Maybe it's, I drink too much. I'm always losing my keys. Um, there's something I've been wanting to do for 10 years. I still haven't done it. I feel afraid. I feel shy. I'm afraid of being seen. I'm afraid of being heard. I'm afraid of being judged. I just don't know what I want. I feel lost. Maybe you're a high achiever and very successful already. And maybe your things are more like, I just can't find the right business partner. I'm not finding other people that are on my level. I'm feeling like I've reached a plateau and I'm feeling uninspired, or we all have something. So I invite you to connect to what it is for you. And you're going to write those things down. And why I suggested maybe having a candle or sitting around a fire is, if you want to, you can choose to burn these things. The intention is, what is it something you could do to remove the energy? To sit with these things, to say thank you for the ways that you have attempted to be of service to me in my life. Thank you for the ways that you have. I'm ready to release you. I'm ready to let you go. I'm ready to put this down. I'm ready to alchemize this, transmute this. I'm ready to say goodbye to this old way of being, whatever it is. You can rip up that paper into tiny little bits. You can dunk it in water and dissolve the paper. You can burn the paper. You can, if you're not writing it down, you can use your breath, and you can imagine that on every exhale, you're sending that energy down into the earth, saying, I no longer am going to hold this in my body and in my life. The intention is to practice whatever makes sense to you for whatever level you're at with this work, to intentionally decide, I am ready to move on from this now. And then own it in the moment. You don't have to know that this is it. Sometimes this is an iterative process of letting go. That's okay. Let yourself own it in this moment, as if it's for real, for true, for today, until forever. Or if that doesn't feel good, you might say, I'm ready to let go of another layer of this, just a little bit. That's okay too. Let this be your practice. That's the point. So we practiced grounding in gratitude. We practiced releasing what is no longer for our highest good. Now, I want to invite you to feel into what it is that you want. So, if you knew that whatever this thing is was possible and inevitable, and that would actually be for the highest good of you and everyone you love, if this were to happen, if you believed this, what would you actually say you wanted? I want to invite us to put down logic for a minute and the need to know how. And I want you to connect to what is it that you actually want? If you had full permission to just be a dreamer, to dream big, to be untethered, to go all out with your dreams, what would be the ultimate? Because that saying, if you shoot for the moon, you will land amongst the stars, applies here. Let your imagination stretch so big that what is actually achievable begins to feel a little bit more acceptable. You could actually begin to wrap your mind and heart and energy around that possibility because you already stretched yourself. So I want to invite you to first stretch yourself with your wildest dreams. If you didn't have to tell the people you love right away what your dreams were, what would you write down? If you didn't have to know if it was possible or how you're going to get there, what would you write down? I want to invite you to be a kid again. Let your heart lead. Let your spirit lead. Let your soul lead. Don't worry about what's practical. Don't worry about what's logical. Don't worry if it's for sure achievable. For a moment, let's just have fun with this. Let yourself dream. Let yourself be inspired by your own life and by the possibilities in front of you if you weren't limited by what's logical. You'll surprise yourself with what you are capable of if you let yourself dream without knowing exactly the way there yet. So write something down. You might have multiple ideas flowing to you. That's okay. Let them all come to life. So now you know what the big dream is. You might surprise yourself with what came up. You might have been working on this for years. Whatever it is perfect. I want to invite you to feel into why. Why does this matter to you? Oh my gosh, the light that is shining in right now is so funny. It is completely, it's actually very appropriate because we're working right now with Lionsgate energy, right? It's the energy of the sun aligning with the brightest star in the sky. And if you could see me on the YouTube video right now, you would laugh with me because it feels like the universe is actually just showing up to this podcast to say, I got you, boo. So with that energy, that beautiful, powerful energy that is literally shining in on me right now as I speak, why? Why, my love? Does this matter to you? Connect to it. Why does it matter? And what does it feel like to know that it is happening? If you could let yourself believe for a second that this or something even better is coming, is unfolding, is already in progress, what would you feel? If this got to be true, how would it impact you personally? And then begin to expand out. How would it impact the people closest to you in your life? Your family, your closest friends, people you work with. And then expand outward. How would it impact your community, your city? Expand outward. How would it impact your country? The group you represent by who you are. Or the groups you represent by who you are. How would it impact the global collective if you can expand out that far? Connect to this. Connect to why it matters. Connects to how it feels to know that this is actually possible. Notice your feelings change your frequency. If you're someone who already knows how to work with energy, I want to invite you to feel your frequency when you let yourself resonate in this dream you have being absolutely true. Let that frequency expand out as big and as bright as you can imagine, as you can sense, as you can feel. For those of you who aren't familiar with working with energy, I want to invite you to just sense. When I say these things, when I hold this frequency for us of belief, what is it that you can notice? Let yourself stay open to receive the information in a sensory way or in whatever way is available to you. Working with energy is nuanced and subtle, but we're all capable. It starts with being open to noticing the subtleties of how you feel and what you notice. Thinking about how my voice right now coming through is a frequency. That is energy. The sunlight shining in on my face right now, that's energy. Can you feel the energy that you are cultivating from the inside out when you think of yourself in this future dream being true? And then you may, if it's part of your practice, you may set an intention and ask for support. You might ask for support from your guides, from source, from God, from goddess, from your higher self, from your ancestors, from your angels, from spirit, from Mother Nature. What do you believe? Who do you believe is paying attention? Who's supporting you? You might ask for support. As you write this intention, you might say something like, I am open to be guided. I am open to receive wisdom. Show me the way. How may I be of service? You might say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am already grateful for this dream being made manifest. I am asking for support from. Name who you're asking. Call in the support. You might want to set energetic protection around yourself and say, that you're only asking for this from guides who have your highest good, guides who are looking out for your highest good. So you want to be aware that you don't want to just open up your energy field to everything and anything. Before you even start your practice, you want to be thinking about setting energetic protection for yourself, grounding in gratitude. And then also, when you begin to open up for guidance from spirit or from source, you might say, sending away anything that is not for me, inviting in anything that, inviting in my guides with my highest good in mind, who you have your own language around this. We all have our own language around this. In my practice, I'm always intentional about if I am asking for support, I'll name who from. Some people say well and healed ancestors. Some people say my angels and guides looking out for my highest good. Find the language that works for you. You might just say asking for support from Mother Nature and the universe, asking for support from my own higher self. I want to invite you to play with this idea that you're not alone in this and that you actually can receive support. And you might put out there that you want to receive support from people in the world around you as well. And so a bit of an ask, we already said thank you with our gratitude practice. Now you get to also ask for what you want. You want to say thank you again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then we get to take this practice into the tangible world a little bit more, equipped with the vision of where we're going, the belief that it's possible, the feeling of how it feels when we've gotten there, the frequency that supports us to call in all the support we need to make it come to life. Now we get to figure out the way. So we touched on the what, the why, and now we're going to look at the way. So this is where we pull that big, big, big dream and put it into our calendar. So how do we do this, right? How is the hard question? So instead of asking how, I say it as the way, because I see it as this long, long path potentially, right? If you have a big dream, it might be a long path. It might actually just be a way of being that you're choosing to be now. And so you want to connect to what is the next. You might break this down into chapters. Like, what are some of the steps to get there? What is the final thing? What are some of the milestone chapters that I'll celebrate? You might just look at what is the next small step to take in the right direction. Ultimately, all we need to be creating is movement in a direction that matters to us. We don't have to know more than that. And so, what is an inspired action you can commit to today? Today. Don't wait till tomorrow. I know that your life is full. I know you have a lot going on, probably. But can you take a moment to just make one commitment to yourself in this moment? Even if it's seemingly small, know that it's big. Every big accomplishment that's ever been made that has changed the entire world was done by way of tiny steps. Tiny decisions that led to tiny actions that led to more decisions and more actions, and more thoughts and more feelings and more connections. And it all unfolded by way of one tiny little step at a time. And so if there's something that you want that you don't have yet, it's likely that you have to try to do something you've never done yet. And so I invite you in this Lionsgate portal energy to invite some courage. It's okay to have fear. Fear is a very healthy response to doing something new. So, what we get to do when we feel fear or we feel disbelief or we feel something in the way, resistance, all we have to do is connect again to what is possible, what we want to believe is possible, why it matters to us, how it makes us feel, and then we need to invite courage. It's not that you're not capable of doing the thing you say you want. It's just that you haven't found yourself to be brave enough yet. And this is a statement that I heard from a mentor of mine, Melanie Ann Layer, and she says, it's not that you're not good enough, it's that you're not brave enough yet. And that is a life-changing statement that I find to be very, very true. And so if there's something that you want, but something is in the way, you get to start today with making a shift in the direction that you say you want to be going. Maybe it was listening to this podcast and doing the journaling questions that I just guided you through. Maybe that was your one thing today. Let that be more than enough. It's already so much. If you feel inspired to do one more thing, go ahead and do that thing. Even if it's like, I'm going to take care of myself a little bit better by washing my face tonight before bed, or I'm going to journal on some, something else that came up for me in the journaling exercise. I'm going to say I love you and mean it a little bit more. I'm going to, change something about my morning routine tomorrow. I'm going to choose to drink a glass of water before drinking coffee to support my health of my liver and my body and my metabolism. I'm going to choose to go to bed a little bit earlier tonight. I'm going to choose to take magnesium before bed so that I sleep better. What is one small step you're going to take? Maybe you're listening to this not today. You're listening to it like, I don't know, 3 months from now. It doesn't matter. You can use this practice anytime. I should have said that earlier. Did I? Really, you can use this practice anytime. I talked about this already, how I believe that this is relevant every single day. It's just fun in the energy of the Lionsgate portal to talk about manifesting today. So that's what I decided to do. So there's a lot more where this came from, my loves. Thank you for doing this practice with me. Feel free to send me a message, to comment on the YouTube video, to write me on Instagram, to send me an email, and let me know what you're manifesting. Let me know anything that stood out to you in this episode that you liked or that you have questions about, or maybe that you have a different perspective on. And please make requests for topics you want me to cover on this show that relate to what it means to know, love, and lead yourself. And especially in the context of evolving the collective by way of everyone. So thank you for practicing this with me today, for staying open, for being here, even if you feel like you are really advanced with this work and maybe this felt a little bit entry level for you even, I'm going to have some episodes where I'm going really deep and not holding back. And I'm going to have some where I'm really going to invite people who haven't done this work yet to partake. And so my hope is that those of you who are very new at this feel so welcome. Like, seriously, this is why I'm creating this. And for those of you who've been practicing these things forever and feel very advanced, please stay and put your powerful words in the space. Let this work change you. It never gets old. We never ever get too good at this to stop doing it. You know what I mean? It gets to be as deep or as light as we need it to be, and that's what I love about it. So for myself, I started practicing this actively back in 2018. Remember in episode 1, I told you that story about a moment that cracked me open and set me on a new path. And one of the things that happened immediately after that was I got introduced to an exercise that I began to do as a daily ritual. Do not lose sight of the present as you go after what you want, because the whole point is feeling a sense of purpose and fulfillment, and we do that in the present moment. And so on your way to your most daring dreams, remember to stop and make eye contact with the people that you love. Remember to invite them, to include them, to connect with them. Remember why you're doing this. Let your why be alive before you get there, because you're being the person that you aspire to be on the way there. You don't achieve your dreams by getting there necessarily. You achieve them by becoming the person that you think is your best self right now, becoming someone that you can be proud of. Like, that is so much more satisfying than crossing a big goal off the list. And it's not just about loving yourself. It's about loving other people fully. It's about loving things about life, being able to see, the value in things, in nature, in a star, in the sun, in being able to see that there actually is meaning beyond what maybe we're told, that there is something else. And look at this brilliant sunlight shining in right now. It's so just magical. And I am just the truth, speaking about this big invitation for each of you to be exactly who you are and for that to be okay. One thing you're going to learn about me is I actually love to just embrace the magic of life. I'm a Pisces sun and a Pisces moon and a Libra rising, and I really see life through the eyes of an artist. And I do have dreams about the way things could be for humanity, and I love to let myself believe in those things, because even if it might be a bit delulu to think there's a solulu to things that seem unsolvable, I choose to believe. I choose to believe that there is more than the dismal dystopian future where all of the practical outcomes are already known by all the smartest people in the world, and that's all we're ever going to get. And no, I'm sorry. Science is something I value very much. It's also limited by the scope and the capacity of the human imagination. Science is limited by our ability to even hypothesize something to gather evidence for. It's limited by our ability to perceive and to test. And that's why I don't think it could ever be accurate that it's science versus spirituality, science versus belief, knowing versus believing. It's actually got to be both, or we're not seeing the whole picture. I'm sorry. We're not. We can't see the whole picture because humans are always evolving and learning more. And the only way to actually be intelligent is to allow for new information to change your mind, to adapt the science to reflect that new evidence has been uncovered. And so this is why I hold space for the intangible and that which we can't see, sense, or feel yet. Or maybe we know it's there, but we can't quite quantify it, like love. And so if love is something we can believe is real without being able to really quantify it and prove it, what else? And I think humans are allowing for a lot more truth and intelligence when we allow that to exist, to consider the possibilities that might be there for us, to consider that, even in the context of our own life, okay, I might not have evidence yet that it's possible for me to do this thing. Based on my past, it makes no sense that I should be able to dream that. But if we observe the way things actually are, and we notice the stories that people have about their lives, and we look at the way the world has evolved because of people's biggest dreams, then the only thing that actually makes logical sense is to believe that things are possible that we don't know how to do yet. And I'm surprised always by how many people can't wrap their head around that cling firm to the nope, that's not possible because we don't know how yet. When really, all we need to acknowledge is that we don't know how yet. But is the thing possible? We don't know. But we are allowed to get curious about it. We're allowed to believe that the reason we have a vision that something is possible because it is. We're allowed to believe in ourselves in a way that our friends and family can't. And in fact, I think that's the only thing that has ever allowed people to do things that change the world. When you think of people who change the world with their innovations, that started with a crazy idea that probably everyone was like, dude, are you high? There's no way. It probably started with a bunch of naysayers saying, you're delusional, you're crazy, there's no way, what the heck, not possible. And then many, 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 many failed attempts. Thinking about the invention of light, of the internet, of things that completely changed the world on a global scale, all the way down to something really small like, someone breaking a record in long distance running, or someone inventing a new kind of food that didn't exist before. These things are happening every single day. People saying, I believe this is possible. Let me show you. And then they have to go through the awkward, vulnerable process of being wrong for a while, not knowing why or how, or being able to really prove it yet. Eventually, they're able to show everyone, see, there you go. And then all those people probably wish they were a little more supportive along the way. Can we do that for each other? This is my wish for the world. I'm going to end on this intention for us. My intention for us is that we actually begin to create a culture around growth, change, innovation, this work of self, this work of the future, this work of the world, that we actually get to create a culture around this that is really supportive, that is really loving, that is open-minded, open-hearted, that says, maybe that is possible for you. How can I help? Instead of immediately judging, immediately naysaying. There are so many gifts that haven't been given to the world yet because people don't feel safe to share their ideas. Can we start with ourselves, with creating a culture where it's safe to dream, where you're allowed to dream, where you're allowed to put your ideas out there and say, what if? But what if? What if this is possible? You know, like, what is the harm in that? What is the harm in letting people dream? Who knows what they're capable of? You don't know what anyone is capable of. You might not even know what you're capable of yet, because maybe you haven't even let yourself dream yet. And if you're someone who's a huge advocate for others and who is open-minded and open-hearted, and you're like, I do that, you know, good. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being someone who's willing to live that way. And my wish for you is that you are so supported in that. My wish for all of us is that we create a culture together where people are safe and encouraged to be their authentic selves. I hope that you feel safe and supported and encouraged to be your authentic self. I hope that you let yourself dream and that you feel inspired by your own life. My wish for you is that you feel alive in your life and that you feel that if you desire something, it's for a reason, and you get to go after that desire even if you don't know exactly how you're going to get there yet. And that the process of getting there gets to be a fulfilling part of it, that you get to start now, and that there is no circumstance or excuse that is valid enough to keep you separate from the person that you desire to be. And here's why. There are, of course, impossible circumstances. There are difficult circumstances. There are things that completely take people's power away. I do not invalidate that. The struggle of that is valid, real, and necessary to consider and factor in always. Of course, again, truth. But what we do have access to, and what I hope with my whole heart that you are able to access and practice accessing as often as you can, is your response is a reflection of you. Your response to everything and anything is a reflection of you. You're allowed to dream, even if the conditions are impossible. You're allowed to want what you want, to think what you think, to feel how you feel. It's valid. You're allowed. You're allowed to respond to life in the way that feels right to you, even if other people don't agree. And my wish for you is that you are supported in having that and that you let others have that too. Let's, as best we can, come together in creating a culture where the future does get to be a place that we're proud to pass down to the next generations, because we shifted the things that weren't working with our intention and our action. And we decided to stand for something better and say, we can do better than this. I know we can. And this is something that I know in my heart. Plenty of people have told me, no, 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 Steph. Gosh, I've heard that so much in my life. And I understand why. And I don't judge it. I get it. I get it. And I stand firm in that there is a better way and that we can all do better. We can be better. We can love each other and the planet better. We can continue to evolve. And in fact, that's our job. And we can be more supportive of each other in their dreams. It's not everyone's job to think maybe about evolution and change. Everyone's got their place, and everyone's place matters. I do think, though, that we hold ourselves and each other back with this very quick to disempower way of being that we can be. And so I invite all of us to see where we can allow for a little more possibility, a little more light, a more love, more support and encouragement for ourselves and others, because I think humans are so much more capable of a collective experience that is inclusive and empowering and prosperous and beautiful if we were to overcome some of what keeps us closed off and limited and small. And I think that happens without our permission. It happens naturally when we don't choose to be intentional, when we don't choose to manifest, we don't choose to be mindful. We will just be what we will be, and nature will choose. And sometimes evolution is very, very, very slow. So we want to think about, do we want to let nature take its course? Or do we want to feel ourselves as a part of nature and take our course in harmony with all that is? This was a long one. Thank you if you are still here, you're still with me, you are incredible. Thank you for giving me your attention, your focus. Thank you for receiving all that I shared with you today. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for this day. I'm grateful for this Lionsgate portal, for this podcast finally being out into the world. And so if this was valuable to you today, please give it a rating, leave a review, subscribe to my channel, maybe forward it to someone who would appreciate it. If you feel called to support me and to support the mission that I stand for, the vision I have for myself and you and us and, our future, please help a sister out and do what you can to spread the word. I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. This has been for you, Boo. Thank you for receiving, and also thank you for listening. I look forward to hearing your questions, your feedback, your reviews, and thank you for being in collaboration with me. I am doing this for us, and thank you for being here.